All right, what's up, everybody? I'm back on here live doing another coding challenge. I'm Kelvin. I'm a software engineer, and if you seen me do these before, you know I get on here every now and then to do a coding challenge. So I'm a software engineer. These coding challenges usually get asked in interviews, and so what I do is just jump on live to do these coding challenges. I'm gonna wait a little bit for some people to join across the different platforms. I'm live on TikTok, Instagram, X, Twitch, and where else? TikTok. I think I said that. So anyway, you can switch and watch me on another platform too. But yeah, I'm back on here. I'm gonna try to do another coding challenge live and see how it goes. This one's a medium problem on LeetCode.com called Longest Palindromic Substring. So the reason I do these type of problems is for coding interviews. So for the job that I have, uh, called software engineering or programmer or coder, whatever the company wants to call it, a lot of the interviews ask these kind of questions, where they're giving you basically sort of like a riddle, that you need to code a solution for. It's a challenge, or for better lack of a term that they call it, that they're going to ask you in the interview, and you need to be able to solve it with code. You need to be able to understand it, talk about how you want to solve it, and then actually write code to solve the issue. And so for people that are unfamiliar with these type of coding problems, it can be a little bit difficult in the middle of an interview if you haven't practiced these type of problems beforehand. They're not, even if you've been coding for a long time in the industry, these type of problems aren't necessarily intuitive. Like you might be able to figure them out, but without the strategies, learning data structures and algorithms directly, it can be a little bit difficult because this is not always something that every software developer is doing every day in a normal job. What's up, Real Emma on YouTube? What's going on, man? I see some people jumping in on TikTok. See some people jumping in on YouTube. Kim Stevenson said, "Yan." I mean, hey, man, this is what we doing. I don't like it either, but this is what I have to practice for coding interviews. So, but I feel you. So, hopefully it's valuable to somebody. Hopefully, you may not already know the answer to this problem. You may not. You may learn something today. I know I'll probably learn something. I don't know if I'm going to get through it. It's been a little while since I coded this one. So we'll see if I can kind of remember it from memory or if I have to kind of like work through it myself. So we'll see. Johnny, appreciate you joining on TikTok. What website is this? This is a website called LeetCode, LeetCode.com, LeetCode.com. So it's a website where you can go and practice these problems. It's probably the best website to go practice these problems. Now you can use other websites in addition to this, but this is the best one. Shamwoo, this is 2-pointer, right? It's not exactly a 2-pointer solution. I'll go through kind of what it is. Oh well, yeah. It's 2-pointer. Yeah, you could call it 2-pointer. My bad, dude. I think you're on the right track. My fault. Let me see. What type of engineering do you do? So I'm doing mostly front end engineering, but I consider myself full stack. Over the course of my career, I've been doing back end software development. I've been a front end engineer. I've been a back end engineer, and I've done mobile apps as well. I've done web, so I've been like all over the place in my career as far as what kind of development I've been doing. Only thing I haven't really done is like machine learning and the AI stuff, some of the newer stuff. I haven't really did much of that, but I've done like mobile application development, web application development, API development, service development, like DevOps stuff. Like, so I've done a lot of different stuff. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and jump into the problem. I think we probably got enough people that's jumped on here now. So yeah, just comment, ask me any questions. I'll try to stop and answer questions, but other than that, I'm gonna try to jump into the problem and see where I can get. So anyway, this problem, LeetCode.com, is a medium. It's called Longest Palindromic Substring. And a palindrome, just to explain what that is a word that is the same from the front and back as far as the letters go. So you think of like the word dad, D-A-D. From the back and the front, it's the same. The first letter is the same as the last letter, and as you move inward, the letters are the same until you get to the middle, where the middle letter is the same if it's an odd number of letters. If it's an even number of letters, then each letter as you move in on both sides is exactly the same. So like if you mirror the word, it's the same from the front and the back, if that makes sense. That's what a palindrome is. So this problem wants me to find the longest palindromic substring. So given a string S, return the longest palindromic substring in S. So they give me a variable with a string, and a string you can say that's a word. You can consider that like a word, like dad or cat or whatever. And considering that string that's named S, that's the variable name for that string, return the longest palindromic substring. So in this example, the string here is BABAD. And the longest palindrome in here is actually BAB. So the output my program should deliver is BAB out of this whole substring, because ABA is a substring, BAB is a substring, BAD is not a substring, but a single letter is a substring actually. So A is a substring. So it's just saying return the longest one. So if I have a tie, like ABA is I'm sorry, not a substring, a palindrome. ABA is a palindrome, BAB is a palindrome. So BABA is not a palindrome. It's not the same from both sides. BABA is not, but BAB is a palindrome. So that's the first one we find. So we're just going to return that one. ABA is also a valid answer. So we can return either one, but here in example, they return the first one. In example 2, CBBD, the longest palindrome in here is BB. Like CB is not the same front and back. BD is not the same front and back. The whole thing is not the same front and back, but BB is the longest one we can find. So we may find a short palindrome in the string, but we got to return the longest one. And then the constraints is that the string length, so the length of S, the length of the string, so this string will never be greater than 1,000, greater than or equal to, or less than and equal. It'll always be less than or equal to 1,000. And it'll always be greater than or equal to 1. So it'll always have at least one character, but it'll never be more than 1,000. These constraints are important in an interview because it helps you handle edge cases where the data could be extremely large, because you could think about a case where the string is 1,000,000 characters long. I mean, it's not really a realistic thing, but it's possible when you start to scale. These big tech companies ask these type of questions because they're dealing with massive scale. They're dealing with the most possible scale that a tech company can deal with, being, these are the largest FANG companies: Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Meta, all these, I already said Facebook, but Meta, and Microsoft. These are like some of the biggest companies in the world. They deal with some of the biggest scale. And so that's why they ask these types of problems, is that how do you optimize algorithms as they relate to the input scaling up and down? Does your algorithm perform? How does your algorithm perform relative to the size of the input? Does it just perform exponentially worse when the input size grows larger, or does it perform uniformly as the input size grows larger? Because that could save your company a lot of money and resources. If the algorithm runs better, the application will run better. It will use less resources on the servers and in the cloud infrastructure if you're using cloud. So that's why they ask these questions. Now, the way they ask them and the way they make these trivial type problems, that's just how they decided to form these interviews a long time ago, especially like Google. But anyway, I digress. The constraints, that's kind of just giving you the constraints of the problem. So S can only consist of digits and English letters. That's important to know, but it kind of doesn't matter. We're just going to compare the characters in there. We don't really care what the characters are. But it's still good to know this, unless there's some kind of weird character that could mess something up in your program. We pretty much know that like English letters and digits aren't going to like mess up anything in the program or in the programming language that I'm using. So hope that makes sense for you so far of what the problem is asking us to do. We need to find the longest palindromic substring in here. So how would I do this? If you ever seen me do these problems before, and what's best practice in the interview is you want to think through the solution in your head. You want to talk to the interviewer and kind of give them a sense of what you're trying to do. And then take that solution that you came up with using the data structures and algorithms that you know, and convert that solution to code. Give the interviewer a plan, have them confirm it. They may or may not confirm it, but it's best practice to at least try to ask them to do it, to say, hey, do you think this is a good route for me to go? Because in that case, they may help you. Like if you're going down the wrong track, that may be a chance for them to say, hey, did you think about this? Did you think about that? I don't know if that's the right track. They might help you, but if you don't talk to them and you just start trying to jump to code, they might not, you don't get any help. They're just going to let you dig your own, grave or whatever, dig your own pit. So anyway, when I look at this, I'm going to do this solution. I'm thinking of the most simple solution first. Like if I'm in an interview and I don't know what's going on, this is the most simple solution. So some of y'all might look at this like this is not optimal, but this is the most simplest solution. If I need to find the palindrome in here, I basically, in my mind, I need to look at every combination of letters and check if it's a palindrome, because this is a program. So like in my eyes, I can just look at the string and see that BAB is the longest palindrome here. I can just see. But what if this string was like 1,000 characters? It could be 1,000 characters long. I can't just eyeball it. I have to programmatically write an algorithm to do it. And what I want my algorithm to do is one by one test, is B a palindrome? Yes, it's a single character, so it's a palindrome. Is BA a palindrome? No. Is BAB a palindrome? Yes. So that's the longest one I've seen so far, 3. And then is BABA a palindrome? No. Is BABAD a palindrome? No. So now I know, at least so far, BAB is my palindrome. But now I need to move to the second character, start with that character, and try A. Is that a palindrome? Yes, but it's not the largest one I've seen. Is AB a palindrome? No. Is ABA a palindrome? Yes, but it's equal to the largest one I've seen already, which is BAB. Is ABAD a palindrome? No. So I basically found 2 palindromes of the same size. That's BAB and ABA so far. And then I'll move on to B and say, start here. Is this a palindrome? Then I'll check BA. Then I'll check BAD. Then I'll move to A and check that one. Then I'll check A and AD. So basically, I'm checking every substring of the string. It's saying find the longest palindromic substring. Substring is just like a substring. It's just a smaller string within the string. If I check every single possible combination to see if it's a palindrome and just save the one that I find is the longest and just return the longest one, that's the most easiest thinking solution. Now, Kacha on TikTok, I can see your comment. You're saying the algorithm would be nice, but the runtime would be terrible. It doesn't seem efficient, right? Like, I mean, I'm checking every single possible substring to see if it's a palindrome. It doesn't seem efficient, but if I'm in an interview and I don't know any better, then that's what I would do. Because if I just got to, like, you may get to an interview and you don't know the most optimal way to do it, but you got to think of something to give the interviewer. So I'm going to do this solution because this is the one I can think of first. And that's okay. As long as you explain your thought process and code out the solution. Now, the interviewer might ask you like, hey, you may need to optimize the solution afterward. But coding something is better than coding nothing. So I'm going to start with this solution. At least I shouldn't even be talking about like whether it's optimal or not. I should just be coding it at this point. But I'm just trying to kind of talk. I wouldn't do this in an interview. I would just do it. So anyway, I'm going to do that. So like I said, I'm going to check every combination, every substring in here, and I'm going to just check if it's a palindrome, and I'm going to find out I'm going to save the longest one that I find in a variable, and I'm going to return the longest one that I find after I check all the combinations, all the different substrings. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. Please let me know if it don't make sense. Do, hey, what's up, man? saying, can I grab a middle one and make a binary tree? I maybe could do that. I'm actually not sure. I don't think I've ever done it like that before, but that may be possible. But anyway, I'm gonna do this brute force solution first, and I hate to even call it that because I think everybody's at different levels, and if you're in an interview, if you know the brute force solution, do it. Don't just give up and don't just try to force yourself to find some other solution and don't finish. It's better to finish with a brute force solution and at least have some kind of thought process about the better solution and what's wrong with the brute force solution versus not getting anything coded. Because if you don't get anything coded, you got zero chance of passing the interview. If you at least get the brute force solution coded, you at least got some sort of chance. So that's all I'm saying. That's why I say if you don't know, you will get in interviews where you don't know how to solve it optimally. And so that's why I'm kind of spending a lot of time talking about that. So anyway, and the other thing is, never mind. I'm not gonna even say that yet. I'm gonna actually just do the solution. Cause I keep over talking the optimization of the solution instead of just doing it. So anyway, like I said, I want to find every possible in this like palindromic substring. To find the longest palindromic substring, I want to just check every single substring to see if it's a palindrome, see how long it is, and then just save the longest one I find. That's the most simplest way logically that I can solve this problem. And so I'm going to put something at the top of the screen so everybody can see what problem I'm doing. I'm going to be using JavaScript. I know somebody probably will say, hey, why don't you use Python? I use JavaScript for my coding challenges. That's what I use mostly day to day in my job. If I interview, that's what I'm using in an interview because I want to show the interviewer what the language is that I'm going for, whatever job I'm going for, which is probably going to be a JavaScript based role or mostly JavaScript writing role. Python is amazing. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm going to use JavaScript. If you can read Python, you can read JavaScript. So before anybody say anything, just, be agnostic and to languages and be open-minded and just know that if you're good enough to read Python, you can read JavaScript as well pretty easily. They're both dynamically typed. They're very easily readable languages. They're higher level languages. They're not super verbose. You can read both of them. So JavaScript, what LeetCode does is they scaffold out the problem for you. If you know JavaScript, I'm going to change this to const because it's better to define this as a const function that can never be changed to improve the predictability in your JavaScript application. It's just best practice to use const instead of var in that case. But LeetCode did that, so I'm changing that before anybody mentioned it. So anyway, the first thing I said I want to do is I'm going to start a loop. And I basically want, like I said, I want to check all the possible substrings. So like my guy said earlier about the two-pointer approach, I believe this would be considered a two-pointer approach, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to start I'm going to have a start pointer at 0. And I'm going to say while start is less than the length of, while it's less than the length minus 1 actually, because I'm not going to go all the way to the end because that's just my start pointer. So I'm not going to go all the way to the end, but I'm just going to go to 1 less than the last one in the string. And you'll see later why I am doing that. So that's my loop. So that'll give me a start. And so basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to create a start pointer to look at the first side of the substring. And I'm going to create an end pointer to look at the end. So like I might first check B as the start and end. And I might check B as the start and then A as the end. I'll check that as a substring. And then I might have B as the start and then this second B as the end and check that as a substring. And then I'll change the start and end pointer to test this as a substring. And then I'll change the start and end pointer from the very start to the very end and check that as a substring. And then I'll move the first pointer to this and start doing the same thing. I'll check all of these. Then I'll move the first pointer, the start pointer to this, and I'll check all of these. So that basically is a way for me to check every single possible substring inside of the loop. I hope that makes sense. If you haven't programmed before, it probably don't make no sense. Like, you gotta have some basic programming knowledge to even get this far. But hopefully for those that have, you're following along and it's making sense to you. I know I'm going slow for some of y'all, but everybody's on different levels, and I'm trying to explain stuff as I go to. So anyway, I'm also gonna do another loop, and this is starting to kind of look I might need to zoom out. I hate to do it, but yeah, gotta zoom out a little bit. So I know that's a little bit harder to see, but I gotta zoom out a little bit to see what's going on. So for y'all to be able to see. So I'm gonna make this an end pointer. I'm gonna start this at start +1, because remember, the end always gotta be, one past the start. So it can't be, you can do it on the same one, but that always will just be 1. And we really don't need to check if for a palindrome for just one character. So the end will always be whatever start is +1. Because remember, that's how I was kind of making my substrings if you saw how I was doing it. And then this one can actually end on the last. It should end on the last character in the string, which is s.length -1. But as long as I just say less than, I'll always stop at the final character index in the string, because JavaScript uses zero-based indexing. So that's important to know. But yeah, anyway, and then n++, that means I'll iterate it. And so inside of this loop, inside of here, now I have a start and end that will literally check every single substring inside of string S. This loop, what it will do, will just go through and check it'll have a start and end at every iteration that will go through every combination, every possible substring in the string. And so what do I need to do when I do that? I basically need to check if the start and end is a palindrome. And so I'm going to make a function called isPalindrome. And I'm going to pass, how do I want to do it? Yeah, so I'm going to pass S into this function. I'm going to pass the start into it. I'm going to pass the end into it. And it's going to return a Boolean. If it is a palindrome, then I'm going to, what do I want to do? So I think I need to save some variables actually, so I know what the longest. So I'm gonna say longest start. I'm gonna say longest start, and I'm gonna make that be. I think I should make that be 0, and then let longest end. So these are gonna denote the index of the longest start and longest end palindrome. So actually I'm gonna say longest palindrome start, longest palindrome end. So this is the start of the longest palindrome I find, and the end of the longest palindrome I find. I'm gonna initialize them to 0 because I haven't found nothing yet. So I'm just gonna assume this string doesn't have a single character is the longest palindrome. I'm just going to make that assumption from the start. When I get to the end, I'm actually going to return using the longest start and the longest end. And how I can do that is just doing S substring longest. So I'm kind of skipping around, but I'm just making sure that I get the end of what I'm doing set up before I even get there, basically. And I think I do +1. Yeah. So substring gives me the substring out of S, and this is the start index. Like, where do I start in the substring? And then this is the end. Like this is how far do I go in the substring, I believe. But I think I have to add +1 to it to get to include the last character where this is at. So I think this is the last index, but I think it has to include I think I have to not press start, but I'm thinking about video games. I had to do +1 to get the end of the substring. I think I'll fix this if this is wrong. I can't remember. But anyway, basically I made these variables so I can use them later here. So I can say if this is a palindrome, then I want to check if it's the longest, if this start and end are the longest palindrome I see. So how I can do that is I could say, I can make a new variable called current longest length. And that will basically be the difference between the end minus the longest one I've seen start. Palindrome end, and then +1. You have to add +1 to get the right calculation there. So I know this kind of breaking lines will look a little funny, but that's what it is. So, and then I need to find so that's the current longest length. And then this is the new length that I just got in this new palindrome. So I can just do end minus start +1 there too. And I want to say if the new length that I found is greater than the current length, longest length, then I need to update these to be start and update the longest palindrome end to be end. So basically what I'm doing, if I find a palindrome, I'm doing all the combinations. If I find a palindrome, then I want to calculate what the length of both the current start and end distance is and the longest one I've seen so far distance is. Compare them, see if my new one is the new longest one, and update the longest start and end to that one if it is the new longest one. So I'll always get the updated longest palindrome in my algorithm. So the final part I'm missing is this function here. I didn't ever implement that. So, and I'm sorry if I'm missing questions. I gotta focus to figure out, but I'm gonna definitely answer when I get done. So, but I need to implement this function here. So I'm implementing another function, and I think I messed that up. Yeah, should be function. I already screwing up on the JavaScript. Yeah, so this is going to implement this function. So what I need to do here, this function just needs to simply tell me for string S is the start and end index that I'm passing in. Is that substring that represent give me a palindrome? And so what I can do is I can say, how would I do that? Yeah, so while start is less than n, I think, yeah, I start is less than n. If start does not equal, I'm trying to think. Okay, yeah, if start is equal to n, then I want to, what do I want to do if start is equal to n? Oh yeah, I need to start from the outside. So yeah, I'm starting from the outside. So start and n. So I need to push start forward and push end back. So basically what I want to do to check a palindrome, I got to start and the end, and I want to check if the start and end letters are equal. And then I want to move the pointer in to the next letter inside and check if they're equal. Then I want to keep moving the pointer in, check if they're equal. And that's what I want to do. So if they're equal, then I want to keep moving the pointers in. Else, if they're not equal, then I just want to return false right here. Because if I find one that they're not equal, then I want to return false. But if I get all the way through this, then I just want to return true because it is a palindrome at that point. Like if I get all the way, if I loop through this whole thing without actually returning false, like finding where start and end is not equal, then I want to return true. I think that's right. Yeah. I probably could write this a little bit better. Maybe I can say if start does not end and return false like that. And then, yeah, this probably look a little cleaner. And make that go on the line like that, yeah. So it actually like condensed this a little bit. So yeah, while start is less than end, then if start does at any point if start does not equal end, then just return false. This is not a palindrome. Otherwise, continue to push the start forward, push the end back, squeeze into the next letter, and then compare them again up here. And if I get to the point where I never return false, I never found any that was not equal, that means this is a palindrome. It was equal from start to end, and I will return true out of this palindrome function. So, oh, and the thing I didn't do right, which y'all probably saw, is I need to actually, I'm not comparing start and end, I'm comparing the values in start and ends of S. Because I wasn't even using S. So I need to actually check that the values are not equal to each other. The values within the letters within the string at start and end index, whether they're not equal. So some of y'all probably caught that, but my bad. So yeah, and then I return false, and then I iterate these. This is fine. This is fine. So yeah, I think all this is fine. So this looks good to me as far as the solution. I set these up. I loop through everything. Yeah, start at 0 while S is less than, yeah, it starts at the 1 right before the end. It stops at the 1 before the end, plus plus. The end starts at always at start plus 1. It ends at the final character in the string, plus plus. It's palindrome. I just checked that was working, so I'm not going to check that again. If current longest length is, yeah, palindrome n minus, see, I got a bug here. It's palindrome n minus start. And then new length is n minus start plus 1. Yeah, the plus 1 is there. If new length is greater than current longest length, then I update these end. Okay, yeah, this looks good. Once I get out of here, I return a substring with my palindrome start and end plus 1 to get the substring that is my longest palindrome. Because these are the start and end of the longest palindrome. I need to use this substring method to pull it out of the original string, what that substring is. So this makes sense. So the reason why I went through all line by line code like that, if you're in an interview, you want to go through the code line by line, and you want to make sure that your code is doing what you say. You saw I just found like 2 or 3 issues in my own code just by going through it line by line. So when you get to this point in the interview, you would do that for one. And then some interviewers, they won't allow you to run the code. Some of them make you trace the code line by line, keep track of your own variables somehow. I usually use comments. Keep track of your own variables and prove to them that your code works with a certain input. So they might tell you to create some value of S that you want to test with. Like maybe you decide to use the examples, like you may decide to use this and then try to run it manually with this. I'm not going to do that for the sake of time. I feel like everybody gets bored when I do that on live. So I'm not going to run through the code manually, but I'm just telling you that some interviews, like I think when I interviewed for Amazon, one of the coding rounds, they wouldn't let me run the code with a program. I had to manually trace to the code and prove to the interviewer that it worked. So there are advantages to that because you could actually have broken code that you just explain so well that the interviewer's like, okay, that's fine. Because they don't, in that case, they don't really care that the code runs perfectly. They care that you could write the code, explain yourself, and it's logically sound and it makes sense. They don't really care that you get the exact syntax perfect, compiler perfect code. They actually are testing for something. They're looking for different signals in the interview at that point. Now, other companies, most companies, I would say they actually do have some sort of runner or executor, whatever the programming language you're using. It could be a compiler, it could be an interpreter, whatever the language you're using to run the code for you. So LeetCode.com actually has that built in or whatever. Of course it does. And so I can just run the code. So what LeetCode will allow me to do is run the code against these two test cases over here, example 1, example 2. So, it's kind of the moment of truth. I'm going to run the code and see. I'm guessing I'll probably have an issue or two, but that's good because I can solve it, Okay, yeah, it didn't have an issue, so that's good. So I got through that one faster than I thought. So yeah, for BABAD, I outputted BAB as the longest substring, and that's what it was expected by LeetCode. Case 2, CBBD, I outputted BB as expected by LeetCode. So I got both these test cases right. So that's amazing. Did a good job on this. The other thing that you would have to explain to an interview is time and space complexity. So time and space complexity is the reason why they ask these questions. How optimal is your algorithm as it pertains to the size of the input as far as using time and space? So time, we're talking about CPU, like a number of operations, talking about CPU processing, how much does the processor need to perform on your algorithm, on your code. And the space complexity is how much RAM, how much runtime memory you need to use, your algorithm needs to use in order to process a certain amount of input. And big O notation, a thing called big O notation, is what we use to denote the time and space complexity for an algorithm. That is a different level of study you would have to do for these type of problems and these types of interviews. I'm not going to go through and explain what all of it means. I'm just going to kind of explain that. I'm doing that simple explanation, and you can go and kind of look up that information on your own. But in an interview, you need to tell the interviewer. They're going to ask you, if you don't tell them, what the time and space complexity is of the algorithm that you just wrote. So time complexity for this one. Time complexity is based on the size of your input. So here, size of the input is actually the length of this string. Now, figuring out the size of your input, that takes, practice to figure out how to know what that is. It's pretty easy once you get used to it, but, you may not know that. One thing that helps is looking at the constraints if you have them in your problem. The constraints usually give you a clue what the size of the input is. And so in big O notation, usually the size of the input is called a variable called n. That's usually best practice to use n. So the size of our input is the length of this string. It's however long this string is. That's how, like, the company or whoever's inputting something into this algorithm could put in something up to 1,000 characters of length. So they could put one character in there, they could put 1,000. So how does our algorithm perform one input versus 1,000 versus 1,000,000 versus 10 million, whatever the case? How does our algorithm scale as far as time complexity? And the things that relate to time complexity here, as far as number of operations, the things that tie directly to the size of the input is this loop. These two things, it doesn't matter how long this is. These two things will always be the same operation, just be two operations. So that's nominal. We don't even count that in time complexity. This loop, though, if I have one thing in here, this loop is going to fire one time. If I have 1,000,000 things in here, this loop is going to fire 1,000,000 times. This loop here is basically almost going to fire 1,000,000 times again, but it's inside of this loop because it's based on the size of the input. So it's actually 1,000,000 times 1,000,000, because I'll run this loop 1,000,000 times, and for every one of these 1,000,000 times, I'm actually running another 1,000,000 operations, give or take. It's not exact, but give or take at scale, that's how many more operations I'll be running. Now, it's not exactly that because I'm doing start plus 1, but as far as big O notation is concerned, these are nested loops. And it's like n times n. If n represents the size of the input, which is string.s, or I'm sorry, s.length, then this will be n times n squared time complexity. But even further than that, I have, when I get inside of here, All this stuff pretty much doesn't matter. It's going to be just constant operations, what's called constant operations in time complexity, which in space complexity, which gets minimized in big O notation. But here I have this palindrome function. This palindrome function also has a loop, and this also is tied to the size of the input, or strongly tied to the size of the input. At worst case, if it's like, let's say the palindrome is 1,000,000 characters of A, so that means the palindrome could be 1,000,000 characters long. This is palindrome function is starting to run a lot because it's having to check every single thing that's equal from these super long strings of like almost 1,000,000 characters. So it's, as far as big O notation, this is also additional loop that's happening close to the size of the input. It's not exactly, but it's close enough to where it matters. And so it's actually 3 sort of nested loops going on here. And so this actually is n times n times n times complexity, which is n to the 3rd power time complexity. So in big O notation, that's represented as big O, and n, it's like n to the 3rd power, but I'm just going to use a little whatever symbol that is to denote n to the 3rd power. Now space complexity, how much additional space is my algorithm using in accordance, in relation to the size of the input? So I'm actually not using any additional data structures here. So a data structure will be an additional array, or a map, or a hash map, or a stack, or some sort of data structure that is saving up data. Here I'm just using simple variables. These are considered constant variables that get released as soon as the loop is done, or as soon as they lose scope, they get released from memory, at least as far as JavaScript is concerned. And so they're not actually getting stored up heavily in memory. So they don't, at least as far as big O notation is concerned, they're not actually counting as space within the algorithm. So this algorithm is actually constant. Like, it uses, no matter how much input I get in here, it relatively at scale uses the same amount of space, or a constant amount of space. So this actually is called big O of 1, or constant. And I can't remember what, anybody in the comments know what big O n to the 3rd power is like called in like layman's terms or whatever? I can't remember. Or maybe it's cubic. Oh yeah, somebody said cubic. All right, so cubic. All right, so anyway, so the final thing I can do now, I talked about the time complexity. Thank you for y'all for the comments about being cubic. Yeah, for time complexity, I've talked. So here I'd be probably done. Whether I got it right or wrong, I'd be pretty much probably done in the interview. The interview may have some questions. They may, if I got something wrong, they may try to target it. But I don't have an interviewer here. I got y'all. Some people are saying that it's not cubic, that it's just squared. It's I think that's quadratic. I think. I always forget the names if I'm not if I'm not practicing interviews at the time. I'm not actively interviewing right now, so I forget the actual layman names. But anyway, some people are saying it's like squared or whatever. So we'll see. So anyway, LeetCode also allows me, I'm done with the problem now. LeetCode also allows me to submit to see how it performs in relation to other LeetCoders that are on here doing these. It kind of, you got to take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't actually perfectly test it against other people's performance, but it also tested against a bunch of different test cases. So I think it's going to work because this problem has a max of 1,000 characters. So it really doesn't scale that crazy. And I think that's why it's a medium. This could be 1,000,000 though. Like that's what they could, like a person that asks you in the interview, they probably won't max it out at 1,000 because 1,000 is too small. Like no matter what this actually is a good algorithm for 1,000 things. Like it's not a bad algorithm for 1,000 because 1,000 is not that much to a computer. But once it gets to like 1,000,000, then that's when it's like, you start have algorithms that run too long. And I mean, even 1,000 could be like, depending on what you're doing in here, 1,000 could be a lot. If this was a real algorithm in a real application that has some expensive resources inside of here that were being used or called or whatever, 1,000 may even be too much. But I'm thinking this is probably going to be okay. So I'm going to submit it. I just hit the submit button, and it might fail though. I don't know. No, it actually passed. Okay, yeah. So it passed. So I can't explain anything there with that, but it said it beat 5%, and on memory it beat 88%. Like, you gotta take these with a grain of salt though, because like, it really, I could run this again and it would change to something else. So I don't really trust that. But you can also analyze the time complexity. So yeah, Elite Code thinks that the time complexity is what I thought it was into the third power cubic. So, you know, for those that may have said squared, I think you might have been missing the so it's two loops here. So that's n squared, but that is palindrome 1. You can't forget about that one. That is considered expensive. Like, it's considered something tied to the worst case, because that's the thing I didn't say. Big O notation is about worst case. So worst case, if I had a long string with the same character in it, like all the same characters, let's say like I had a million A's, a string with a million A's in it, then this would run a lot of times. Like, it would check the a million length, and it would literally check every single character, and then it would go down one. It would check every single character, like 999,999. It would check that many again. Then it would go to 998 and check that many times. So it's not exactly another like times a million, but it's close enough to where it's considered, in big O notation, it's considered another n. So it's n times n times n. So that's something about big O notation. You kind of got to learn like where it counts and where it doesn't count. It's not the easiest thing. Big O notation ain't the easiest thing to get used to as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, yeah, Elite Code, it tried it against 143 different test cases. I also can check the space complexity, and yeah, like I said, it's constant, big O of 1. So I mean, that's at least what Elite Code thinks it is. So I'm gonna go with that. And yeah, so that is the brute force solution. So n to the third power is not a great time complexity for these problems. Typically in an interview, if you're not getting down to n squared or n or big O of n linear, then most of the time you got a brute force solution that isn't the most optimal solution. Most questions are going to sit you at worst case in big O of n squared. Most cases. Sometimes you'll have one that'll sit you here and it'll be okay. Maybe some of the Elite Code hard questions, hard level. But most of the time, it's probably a more optimal solution if you're above n squared. So if you're like at n cubic like I am. And so there is, in fact, like some people said earlier, there is, in fact, a more optimal solution to solve this problem. And I'm going to do that solution. I'm going to try to do that solution. Let me not put my foot in my mouth. I'm going to try to do that solution. So, yeah. So this solution isn't easy to come up with on your own, and that's why if I was in an interview and I like before I'd done this problem ever in my life, and I was in an interview, I wouldn't have knew how to do the optimal solution. It's not intuitive. This is something I would have had to practice to learn the algorithm and kind of commit it to memory in my toolbox. So this algorithm is, I don't even know the official name of it, but I call it, or at least what I've seen it called, is expand from center. And what it does is allow me to do the problem in n squared time versus n cubic, like n cubed or whatever, or n to the third power time. It allows me to do it without an extra loop by simply looking at each character one time and expanding from the center of that character and seeing if I have seeing the longest palindrome that I have from each character itself. So for example, what I would do is I would loop through this one at a time. Just simply just call that one loop. I'm just gonna loop through it. On each character, I'm actually going to check for palindromes by expanding out. So like for B, I'm going to expand. I can't expand this way because it's nothing to the left, but I can expand to the right here, and I can say, and I probably just stop actually here. Yeah, if I can't expand to the left and right, then I'll just stop. But let's say I get to A, then I'm going to expand out 2 on both sides, and I'm going to see if I got a palindrome. Yeah, I got a palindrome. So I'm going to save that as the longest palindrome I see. And then I'm going to expand out again, but I'm going to see that I don't got nothing on the other side. I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to move on to B, and I'm going to expand out, and I'm going to see that I got a palindrome here. I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to expand out again and see that I don't have a palindrome. I'm just going to stop and end out there. Then I'm going to go to A. I'm going to expand out, see I don't have a palindrome. I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to go to D. I'm going to expand out, see that I don't have a palindrome. I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to eventually get to the end and see that my longest palindrome was this BAB. And so by doing that expand out method, I loop through one time, and then I do the expand out thing for each loop, for each iteration of the loop. That actually gives me only 2 nested loops, which is n squared. So that is actually a more optimal solution than what I did over here, which was 3 loops nested in each other or whatever. So I hope that makes sense. It maybe makes sense when I do the solution. Yeah, I hope it makes sense when I do the solution. So, and I see somebody talking about dynamic programming and some other ways to do it. There's definitely more than one way to optimize the problem. Oh, and somebody said is palindrome. Oh, it's misspelled. Appreciate that, man. My fault. My fault, man. I spelled it wrong like 1,000 times in here, I think. Yeah, it's spelled wrong here. Spelled wrong here. 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 Yeah, it's not, yeah. Here. I spelled it wrong a lot. See if this still runs. All right, I think I fixed all the misspellings. Appreciate it. I was just being an idiot on that. So yeah, I spelled that right. But yeah, and then I see people talking about dynamic programming. There's a bunch of ways to do the problem. This is the way I know to do it. That's the easiest to me to explain, because you can't just memorize solutions. You got to be able to explain them to the interviewer. If the interviewer is like, why did that work? And you don't know how, you just coded it from memory, it's going to be kind of tough. You know what I mean? And so I at least know why this is more optimal than the solution before. And I just already explained that. So anyway, I'm going to try to do that solution, and it should make more sense to y'all. If it doesn't already. Like, you might be cool. You might be like, this is easy. So I'm going to move these down, and I'm going to put this back on the screen so people know what I'm doing. And I'm actually going to rename these down here to like different names so they don't get mixed up. So I'm just moving these down like not optimal solution down here. And then these up here will be, I don't need that right now, but yeah, this up here will be my new solution. And I'm gonna put this down here so I know what that is, and then I'll leave these blank up here. Yeah, okay, and I'm gonna move this out of the way a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna erase all of this. I'm gonna erase all of this and just start over. So, like I said, my new solution is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be expand from center solution. And so actually what I have to do, one thing that I miss with expanding from center is that I need to expand from the odd center. So like I expand from here, from like one center. And I also need to expand from the even centers too. So like treat these two as a center, and then expand from those. So like I might look at these two and expand from that and see if I got a palindrome too. So I need to expand from the even and odd centers. I forgot about that part. That's why the solution isn't like intuitive. Like I wouldn't ever think to like just find the even centers and the odd centers and let's expand from those. And that's how we like that. This is an algorithm that I did not know until I had done this problem and looked up the solution basically a long time ago. So unfortunately that's how these LeetCode problems go. Sometimes the brute force solution is the more intuitive one that you can get to just from simple programming knowledge you've learned. But sometimes some of those optimal solutions are ones that you just gotta just do these problems over and over, and a lot of them, to sort of build up a toolbox of these different types of solutions. Unfortunately, but maybe y'all different. Maybe some of y'all in the comments are like LeetCode experts and y'all got a different way of like doing that. But anyway, yeah. So what I want to do is I want to start off. I'm gonna call this the longest palindrome. And I'm actually going to make that just be the first thing in S, because the S is guaranteed to have something in it. I got to set this to something originally, but eventually I'm going to return this as the longest palindrome. So I like to kind of get my inputs and outputs together early on. And I still did this wrong. Spelled it wrong, but yeah, longest palindrome starts here and I'm going to return it. And in the middle, I need to figure out what the longest one is. So I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to start checking. I'm going to start expanding from the center. So how can I do that? Well, I can keep a pointer for the center, while center is less than s.length, because that's the end of the string. Center plus plus. So just a simple for loop to loop through the string. Like I said, this is my first loop through the whole string, s one time. And then from that point, I need to expand from center. So I need to find the longest palindrome from the odd centers and the even centers. So I'm going to set up a variable called longest palindrome from odd center. I'm just going to say longest palindrome odd. And then get, I'm gonna call this, I'm gonna make a function called palindrome from center. I'm gonna pass in s, and I'm gonna pass in a left and like a start and an end. But in my start and the end, and I'm gonna drop this down line so you can see what's going on. But the start and the end for an odd palindrome is actually just the same. The start and the end is the same. It's just the same thing. So I'm kind of doing this already. I kind of know to do this already. If I hadn't done this like ever before, I don't think I know to do this, to be honest, man. So I'm not even gonna like sugarcoat. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat like that. This is something that I just came up with out of the blue sky. Like this is something that I just knew how to do after doing these problems. So even palindrome from center. So yeah, and this one would actually be +1 because it's even. So like what I'm doing here is I'm saying, look at the expand from center on the odd one. Like an odd palindrome is a palindrome that has the single character in the middle because it's an odd number of characters. An even palindrome is the one that has even number of characters and it's equal on the same side. So I need to expand from the even one too. And so by expanding from the even one, I get the even palindromes. I have to check for, yeah, that's why you have to check for even. You have to check for even and odd palindromes. You can't just check for the odd ones and you can't just check for the even ones. And so the odd ones have a single character in the middle. The even ones have 2 characters in the middle. So this is the single character. This is checking for the 2. And I'm saving these into the longest palindrome of the odd, the longest palindrome of the even for my current center. And so I'm going to squish these together. And then I need to basically check if longest palindrome odd dot length is greater than longest palindrome dot length. So the one that got the longest, then I'm actually gonna update longest palindrome to be this one, because I got a new longest one. And I also need to do that for the even one too. So I'm gonna do that for the even one too. Just gonna replace everything with even. Yeah, even. And then that'll update my longest palindrome. So after I loop through this and keep checking for the odd and even palindromes for each of the centers, and then updating them when I find, you know, one that's longer, then, you know, I just update it to that one when I find one that's longer. By the time I get to the end, I'm gonna have my longest one and I could just return it. So that's basically how the algorithm works. And the part that I'm missing is I gotta implement this function. Because since I knew I was going to use this function multiple times, I kind of just waited to implement it. Not even kind of, that's what I did. So I know I have S and then have a start and an end. And in here, I need to expand. Like I said, this is kind of the hard part. I need to expand from the center of each of these things. Yeah, I need to expand from the center on each of these centers. So I'm going to loop through this string, and for even, I'm going to take 1. For odd, I'm going to take 1. For even, I'm going to take 2. And then I need to expand out on every iteration. So I think what I need, and I need to return the palindrome. So I probably need to have a variable too here for longest. Same thing here for longest palindrome. And I'm going to set it equal to, oh no, you know what I want to do here? I actually got to do the same thing I did the last time. I have to have longest palindrome start. I'm going to set that equal to start. And then I need to have longest palindrome end. And I'm going to also set that to start, because I don't know if the start and end is a palindrome when I pass it in here. So I'm actually going to just assume that I'm going to initialize these to say the first character is a palindrome. Since that's one character, I can get away with that. So I'm going to do it like that. Then I'm going to say while or for. While or for. I'm going to say while. Yeah, I'm going to say while. Yeah, I'm going to say while. So the thing is here is when let's say I'm here. When I expand, if I go out of bounds here, or if I go out of bounds here, I need to stop. Like, just stop the loop, because I'm out of bounds. And I need to check if the start and end are equal to make sure I still got a palindrome. And also update the longest palindrome I see. So I'm going to check. I'm going to make sure that 0 is less than or equal to the start, because I can't go outside of that. And I'm going to check that the end is less than s.length, because it can't be equal to less.end, because that's past the end of the string. So it needs to be less than, or I can say less than or equal to length minus 1. You know, I could do either one, but it's simpler just to do less than length. So, and I need to check if s start, the actual values for s start and s end are equal to each other. If that is the case, so if I'm not out of bounds on the start side, I'm not out of bounds on the end side, and the values within the start and end are equal, that means I still got a palindrome going on, then I'm actually going to update these two to I'm going to actually, because that means I got a new palindrome. I mean, a new longest palindrome. So I'm going to update this start to the new start and this end to the new end. And so to keep going in this while loop, I actually need to expand outward. So before I was expanding in my last solution, I need to expand outward. So that means start needs to actually go backwards. It needs to go negative, and n needs to go plus. It needs to go that way. And y'all's probably seeing me in reverse, but it needs to go that way, and the start needs to go the other way. And so by doing that, every time I find something equal to each other, I'm actually finding a new longest palindrome. And once these don't equal each other, or I break out of the bounds, I'm going to break out of the whole problem. And then what I need to return here is the longest start and end. I need to return the whole palindrome. So I need to find S. I need to do the substring thing again. So using the pointers that I kept reference to. So n, and just like in the last problem, it was like +1. It's just something you have to do in JavaScript to get the right one. So yep, so that's, yeah. So then that returns the substring from get palindrome from center. Yep. So that looks good. So I'm gonna check the logic behind this get palindrome from center. I pass in S start and end. I set start and end equal to start because I don't know if these are, even if it is a even palindrome, I don't know if it's, even if it's an even start and end, I don't know if it's a palindrome yet. So I'm just gonna set these both to start. Wow, yeah, start can be 0, but it can't be less than 0, so that's fine. End gotta be less than s.length, yeah, and start has to equal end as far as the values in the string at those indexes. And then longest, then if I got all that's true, then I'm just gonna update my start and end of my longest palindrome to whatever the new ones are, because I'm always expanding out. So to always be, anytime I find something new in the loop, it's always the longest one. So I don't have to do all that checking that I was doing like up here. And so then I would actually move start this way to the start of the string, closer to the start, and I move in out. And then I return start and end substring out of S to give me what the actual longest palindrome is. And the reason why I keep track of start and end, because I don't want to keep calling substring inside of this loop. And the reason you don't want to call substring inside of this loop is this is where studying comes, your language comes in hand with these problems. This substring call is a built-in JavaScript function that actually behind the scenes is looping through the string in order to create the substring. It has to go through the string, cut out the string it needs, and then, but by doing that, it's actually doing in operations based on the size of the string itself, or close to it, close enough to it where it actually matters. So if this is an extremely long string, this can actually be an expensive operation. If I do it inside of here, inside of a loop already, then I start to get into these issues where I have these nested loops based on the size of the input, which cause my algorithm to be inefficient. So that's why I'm instead saving these pointers till I get to the final point where I know I got the real ones, and then I create the substring and spit it out back here. And then, yeah, so I'm good to go. And so why doesn't doing this and then doing this right after, which is a loop in here, why doesn't that cause an issue? As long as it's not nested, it doesn't cause an issue. Adding to, like, looping through one thing 1,000 times and then looping through it again 1,000 times is still constant. I'm looping through both of them 2 times. And I know that sounds weird to say that, yeah, 1,000,000 plus 1,000,000 is a lot. But 1,000,000 plus 1,000,000 is nothing compared to 1,000,000 times 1,000,000. That's the difference. So if this algorithm runs 1,000,000 times and this one runs 1,000,000 times, it's just 1,000,000 plus 1,000,000 is 2,000,000. To big O notation, it doesn't matter that much, or it's nominal. But if I'm doing this and then I had this inside of this and I'm doing 1,000,000 times 1,000,000, like, do it in a calculator. I mean, if you know math, you know 1,000,000 plus 1,000,000 is 2,000,000. 1,000,000 times 1,000,000 is like, I don't even know what the number is. I don't know that name of that number. So, you know, it's a big difference. So that's why nesting the loops, and when you're having this n times n thing going on, is why it's considered so strongly in big O notation. So I hope that makes sense. So anyway, that algorithm looks good. This up here looks fine. Like I started, yeah, I make this palindrome is actually the string. So I'm pulling out the first value here. This looks fine. The odd palindrome, I'm using the same center for start and end. Here I use the +1 on the other side to get an even center. I keep saying center. I'm country, y'all. I be saying, you know, I be skipping the T's and stuff. Center and longest palindrome even. Yeah, so that's good. Then I check if it's longer than the current longest one I got. Yeah, if it is, I update it and I do the same thing here. Yeah, so it looks good and I return that here. So yeah, it looks good. So like I said, I think this is a more optimal solution. And like I said, I'm looping once here and then I have another loop inside here. These two are nominal. They can be added together. So I just treat them as the same. And then I have a loop inside of here. So I'm just doing 2 loops now instead of the 3 loops I was doing before, if you remember. So this time complexity, I can go ahead and just put it up here, is n to the second power. And as somebody reminds that quadratic, somebody said I'm going too fast. My bad, bully, man. Sometimes I feel like I'm going slow. People come in here and say you're going slow. Like, why are you over talking? And then I know better. You know, I know everybody's at, you know, different levels. And sometimes I'm just talking too fast, period. You know, no matter what level you're on. So, but I'm just trying to balance it out for all the audience. So, I appreciate the feedback. So anyway, yeah, so it's big O. Somebody remind me, big O n squared, is that called quadratic? I can't remember the name. Quadratic. It's quadratic. I can't remember. Shoot. You know what? I'm just gonna. This is one time I'm gonna look it up, man. Big O notation graph. And I probably shared all my freaking links on there, but it's cool. I don't got nothing crazy on there. Yeah, so. Oh, it don't actually say. Yeah, so big O of n squared is right here. Oh, this thing. All right, this thing acting funny now. My bad. I'm screwing up. All right, so this is a chart for big O notation. And it's a little big, but yeah. So you see down here, big O of n is, I still can't see it. Big O of n is pretty good. It's in the yellow down here. Constant, big O of 1, what I have for my space, is really considered good. But most problems, if you get up to n squared, you're kind of in a red zone. Some problems are optimal at n squared, like the one I'm doing. But most of the time, you kind of want to land in this orange place or below for the optimal solutions. Most of the time. Because sometimes you'll get, for some easy problems, n squared is like a no-no. But, you know, if you have no choice in the interview, go for the n squared. If you got no choice, go for the brute force. Mine is actually n to the third power cubic. So it's like, I think it's in here. It's not like, I think that's polynomial. It's not polynomial, but it's like in between here somewhere, I think. Let's see. It should tell me. I probably shouldn't be wasting all this time looking at this, but it should be like, tell me what it is. Oh no, it don't. Where's the name? This is stupid. Why don't it just tell me the names of the things? Yeah, quadratic time. Yeah, big O n squared represents quadratic time. So I was just trying to make sure I had the name in big O notation. So my bad. I ain't mean to go detour like that. But yeah, so shoot. Sorry. I'm just screwing up bad. All right, yeah. So time complexity is n squared of quadratic. And then the space complexity is, I'm not using any data structure or anything here either. So it's still big O of 1 or constant. So I really don't have a good example of like using space in this problem tonight because this just doesn't use space. These solutions don't use space, so that's good. But that's a really good space complexity. And so, one thing I didn't do, I would usually run this first. I didn't run it first. I went straight to the time complexity. But I mean, in an interview, you probably could, if you beat them to the asking about the time complexity, you'll probably be fine. And somebody asked, what's the problem? It's at the top of the screen up there. Longest palindromic substring. I got it at the top so everybody can see it. So I'm going to actually run this through LeetCode to see against the two test cases, the same two test cases that I ran it on my inoptimal solution, and see what happens. So, wow. So I got it on the first try again, that's pretty good because usually something gonna be messed up, syntax, logic, something. So I got BAB again for the first test case. So I know I'm going fast, but I mean, some people probably been watching for a little while. So BAB, or for this string, BAB is the longest substring, and that's what they expected. My algorithms put out BB for this substring as the longest palindromic substring, and that's what was expected. So my algorithm is working for those two test cases at least, which is great. I talked about the time and space complexity. So like I said, the inoptimal solution down here was cubic. It was into the third power. So if I had a string that was 1,000,000 characters, 1,000 characters long, let's say, because this problem said tops out 1,000. So it could possibly be running 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. But this algorithm is quadratic. It's only into the square power, into the n squared power or whatever. So, or into the second power, whatever. So that's n times n. So that would be 1,000 times 1,000, 1,000,000 times 1,000,000, whatever the length of S is, like S dot length. So it's a better solution. It's a more optimal solution. And if I got to this point in the interview, I'll probably get a passing grade because I optimized the old solution. Now, would I take an hour to do it? No, I wouldn't be talking to y'all. I wouldn't be taking this long to do it. Like, I would run through this a lot faster, but I still would explain about the same type of stuff. I just wouldn't go to the meta of it. Like, I'm like in the meta explaining an interview while practicing the interview. I wouldn't be explaining to the interviewer how an interview works. So all that stuff, I would just skip all that extra explanation. I wouldn't be looking up stuff, all that stuff. So this would go a lot faster. So for people that's saying I'm going fast, I get it. You got to slow down when you're learning, and I'm trying to slow down. I am slowing down when I'm teaching. I would never take an hour to do this type of problem in an interview. So I actually am going slow by just simply explaining. But the problem with the other problem with these interviews, they're time limited. So a problem like this, a medium problem, you probably get about 30 minutes to solve it. And that's optimal and non-optimal. So you probably would just want to go straight for the optimal if you know it. Or if you don't know it, just go for the brute force and see if you can make some time to try to figure out. And hopefully the interviewer gives you enough hints to figure out the optimal solution. But yeah, you don't have a lot of time because the LeetCode hards usually only have about 45 minutes. So usually it goes like this. The LeetCode, and how you know what a hard and easy and is based off of this here. LeetCode does a good job of that, and it usually ties to what people are asking, or companies are asking in the coding interviews. Medium is typically best practice to be able to do these in 30 minutes. Hards is best practice to be able to do them in about 45, and easies is best practice to be able to do them in like 15 to 20. Probably 15 is better. And so you can go over that. Sometimes they let you go over, but a lot of times they may ask you an easy one and then come with a medium right behind it. So it's like you need your interview might only be an hour, and you really need that whole 45 minutes to an hour to figure out both the problems. So you might even get asked an easy followed by a medium. A hard, usually you're just gonna get asked one hard per interview, because it takes so long to do. So that's just giving a little bit of interview guidance for people that have never done those types of interviews before. Somebody said, I wish I remember this stuff as much as I did in college. That's what happened to me. I learned it in college, forgot it all. And then once I wanted to start interviewing with like big tech fame companies and start to get like higher pay and stuff like that from these type of companies, I had to come back and learn them, and I had to learn from scratch. Like, it really isn't something that you hold on to in the day-to-day job. Now, I'm sure some programmers do this day-to-day, but not all, not nearly all. So for 10 years, I'll say probably like 5 years straight, I was working in the industry. I was making good money. I never had to do these kind of problems. Even when I interviewed people, I didn't really ask these type of problems to them because I didn't like them. And so, but at one point I said, man, I'm not going to let there be something out here that I'm afraid of in my career that I can't do. That's a gateway to more opportunities, more money, to big tech companies, and not even just big tech companies ask these, but big tech companies definitely ask these. Most of them do. Not all of them. Most of them do though. Even with AI and stuff, they still ask them still. So, but I didn't want something to be in the way of that. So I forced myself to learn it. And I'm not an expert. I'm not the best. I still fail interviews, but I pass a lot of them. As many as I fail, as many as I pass. And you only need to pass one or two to get some great offers. So I'm not an expert, but I know enough. I passed enough of them to get FANG level offers and pass FANG level interviews, big tech company interviews and small tech company startups. I passed all the types. So I know, at least I got that much validation. But do I know every single problem? No, I didn't learn every single problem. That's not good return on investment. I don't know every single thing. I did enough to get the best investment to pass enough interviews to get the best offers or whatever. So you'll never learn it all, but you want to learn the right things and enough of the right things. So I know I'm jumping around, but anyway, I'm going to run this against LeetCode, against all their submissions, and hope that it doesn't crash. So as you can see, this one, you remember last time it ran a lot slower. So this one is more optimal. It ran a lot faster. It beat 68%. That's not a perfect number, but it did do a lot better than my last one. The memory wasn't as good because I think I'm using a lot more variables and stuff. But the runtime is way better. And hopefully, I'm out of. I don't have LeetCode Premium, so I can't analyze the time complexity again. But I'm very confident that this is n squared, big O of n squared time complexity. So you can look that up and double check me. But I'm very 99% confident that this is a more optimal solution. And it ran against the 148 test cases and everything passed. And that was the first go at it. So that's rare. Usually when I run these, I have some kind of bug, especially when I run them live and I'm under the pressure of live, which is one of the reasons why I do these like this. It's not the same as interview pressure, but it's about, it's about as close as you can get without just doing mock interviews, which I don't know. I don't really do mock interviews. They're kind of weird to me. I'd rather just go to the real interview, and I just do these lives with y'all to do my practice. So it kind of helps me explain myself. I'm under pressure, people watching. It kind of give me that similar feeling of being in an interview. So if I can do it in front of 100 people or 50 people or even 5 people watching, it's more than just one person in the interview. So anyway, I think I can answer some questions now for people that are just joining. I just finished this problem with the most optimal solution that I know of. The problem's at the top of the screen. This is LeetCode.com. I was using JavaScript. I'm going to go and answer some questions for a little while in the thread, in the comments. Not TikTok, YouTube. Somebody said, hey, Claude, figure this out for me. Yeah, so we're in the days of AI. The AI question going to come up. Do we still need to learn these because we have AI now? At least as far as I know, I had a friend that just got into Facebook recently. They still ask these questions at Facebook, even though Facebook announced they weren't going to be doing it anymore. He went and interviewed with them and they still were asking them. So a lot of big tech companies are still asking LeetCode style coding challenges, problems. So it's not over yet. Once it's over, I'll stop doing these and I won't worry about it myself. But until that day comes, I'm on here trying to help myself, trying to help people learn these. So yes, you can pump this into AI and it'll give you the answer, but you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to be able to pass an interview with it. And, I don't know. I just wouldn't rely on that if you're trying to interview. So I wouldn't rely, because you get in an interview and they're like, no, you can't use AI. And then you're looking crazy. So, yeah. So anyway, I'm going to read some comments. Let's go over to TikTok. That's probably where most of the comments at. Claude doesn't solve critical thinking. Definitely a good way to get more brain wrinkles. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing, man. AI is here to stay. I'm using it every day in my software engineering job. I'm a principal software engineer. That question probably came up. I'm a principal software engineer, probably like a mid-sized tech company, which I like because I got a lot of impact. I'm able to kind of be at the top, but still able to solve like new problems and not just be under the bureaucrat and, you know, politics of like a huge tech company. But it's not a startup. It's big enough to where there's like nice problems to solve. I get to see my work used every day by real consumers out there on these different websites, which is pretty cool. But anyway, I use AI every day now, and I use it to code. It usually takes a first shot at the code, but I still need to keep myself sharp as far as programming skills, data structures, algorithms, in order to guide the AI, in order to review what the AI is doing, in order to stop it from hallucinating, in order to give it the context that it needs, context engineering, in order to prompt it properly. Like, we still need smart, critical thinking devs. At the end of the day, software engineering was always about problem solving within the lens of software. It wasn't always just about coding. It never was. They called us software engineers. They didn't call us coders or programmers. Most companies that have these jobs is called software engineering or software development engineer. It's not called programmer. And so it's about building software, whatever tools you have. AI is just a new tool. And so you still need to be able to critically think. So some person, I know I've seen you on these lives before. I appreciate you for commenting that. Kayla had a bunch of comments on here. I see you saying you're currently in a Python course. That's great. You want to learn SQL? Or I can't remember. Let me see if I can find what you said. You said you want to learn SQL. Any tips? I think that's what you were saying. My expected graduation day is in May. Could I have a solid understanding by February if I begin next week? Yeah. By February, yeah. Like a month. It just see that when you say like how much time, it depends on how much daily time you're putting into it. If you can dedicate an hour to it at least 4 times a week, you'll have a pretty solid understanding. And that's limited. That's minimum. That's not even a lot, you know. Most of the time when I'm studying, I'm doing at least an hour every day, sometimes more on the weekend. So I think you can do it. If you could, yeah, like you said, if you could do 1.5 to 2 hours 4 times a week, maybe do 30 minutes a day, whatever, you're going to be good at whatever you want to get proficient at. After a month and a half or whatever, you know, give or take Christmas and the holidays, you may skip a little bit. You can learn whatever SQL, whatever you were saying you can learn, you can do it. Now, if just DM me if you want like tips on like what you resources, like tips on some resources you want to learn use, because I really need to ask you like, you know, what's your learning style, kind of what you know, what, because there's so many great tools out there. It's really not a question of if there's something, it's just like picking the right one that is most optimal for you. So yeah, Kayla, good luck in your journey, like getting into it, trying to get a tech role. Like, please DM me, like, and you know, if you got any more questions that I can like just answer directly to help, because yeah, that's what it's about, man. Trying to get more people into this field and not people getting scared away from AI. And like, that's the craziest thing I've heard. I see so many people not pursuing tech anymore because of AI, and it's like that's completely the opposite thing you should be doing. Should be thinking. AI is making it easier to get into it. And yeah, it is killing some jobs. Like, I'm not going to just be stupid, you know, and just say it's not killing any jobs. But it just means you have to start adopting AI and you have to start critically thinking a lot more, and you have to try a little bit harder. It's not a lot. It may not be quite as easy as it was, but it still is very rewarding if you're able to get into it and get to like, you know, these tech role compensation packages at these companies. It's definitely worth it. So anyway, and it's a rewarding job. Like, it ain't just about the money. It's just, you know, if you like tech, it's a rewarding job. Like, you feel like you're actually productive. So Oh yeah, somebody wants to see the palindrome from center function. Yeah, I mean I could maybe if I can zoom down or zoom out a little bit. Yeah, so it's a little small, but you can see the functions now, both the functions. So for anybody that's joining in, I solved this problem early. I'm just answering questions now. Yeah, people scared of AI don't really understand. Appreciate that, King Donnie. Software engineering is problem solving. Yep. So we still need to be there to guide the AI. AI is getting better and better, no doubt about that. But software engineers still are going to be needed to use the AI and guide it to build software to give it context that it doesn't have, to give it real world context, to give it plug in context that is missing. To even if it is able to do some of the work, it still needs to be plugged into the right things. It still needs guidance, like, at least as far as I see. I've been doing it. I just been doing it like over 10 years, and I'm seeing AI come in and we're using it at work. And so I'm telling y'all from like the direct, some of y'all are software engineers and some of y'all are in tech and some other roles, and and some of y'all think different. Some of y'all may think the same, but that's my opinion. So, let's see. What is this C++? No, this is JavaScript that I have on the screen. Scott says, please everyone make projects and build a portfolio. Yes. Yeah, please do real projects. That is the hack, man. I got my first job by doing real projects. I did this social media site, and I ended up getting an interview, and they ended up coming up, and I actually like showed them and told them what I built and explained the technology I used, the database schema that I used, the database type that I used, the API calls, the code for the front end, the code for the back end. And that impressed them. And so like doing real projects not only gives you experience, like learning, and then it also gives you something additional to put on your resume. And I'd say even more than that, try to find companies or people with businesses to contract for them. Like say, hey, I'll do it for free, but let's write up a contract. This is how long I'm going to work for you. I'm going to build your website. I'm going to build your app. I'm going to build this automation for you or whatever. And put on your resume as contract work or as freelancing or whatever you want to call it. I like calling it contract work. It sounds a little bit more professional. But if you actually are a contract, it don't have to be nothing fancy. But if you're actually doing some work for somebody and you have a contract and have them pay you a cent, so you could say that it's paid, have them pay you $1 or something, that helped. But the more real it is, the better it is, because they might vet it. So when I did it, I actually was doing contract work for like a real LLC. Like they actually had a real business. They contracted me to build their website. Like everything was legit. They had a page on LinkedIn. Like, so the more real it is, the better. But do what you can. Do what you have access to, the people you have access to. So you ever try to return a palindrome of numbers? Seemed like that would be, I don't know, the same type of situation, just characters. I'd just be looking at the numbers as characters. You mean if they're actual numbers instead of a string? I probably up front just convert the string, the number to strings and just do the same thing I just did. And then convert it back or whatever if I needed to. But I probably just do a conversion before and after from numbers to strings and then treat the number as a string. Unless you're, I don't know. It seemed like it'd be the same thing as long as you just convert it to strings. Converting it to strings is, it does take some, you have to go through even if you use a built-in function, it has to go through every character to do that. So, but you're not nesting that inside of anything. So it actually isn't, I don't think it's like a big drawback on your time complexity too much. So, anyway. Okay. Matthew Go Jim said, cool little way to do it. Use the modulus to get the last digit and put that into reverse. Okay. I mean, is that a palindrome, or is that maybe I'm thinking about a different problem. I don't know. But okay. Are you talking about multiply by 10 and then add the digit? Are you sure that's a palindrome problem? Or is that like I feel like that's a different problem, man. But yeah, just let me know. Jamal, if somebody's learning how to programming quickly, how can they get the skills? If somebody is now learning programming, how quickly can they get the skills to be employed? Yeah, that was like an answer to the other person. Like, it depends on how active you are. So I could sit here and tell you 6 months. I could tell you 3 months. I could tell you months. But it depends on how you're using that time. Like, it depends on how much time you have. So if you're only spending an hour every 2 days a week, then yeah, it might take you 6 months. It might take you a year. It might take you 2 years. But if you're literally doing something every day, like a couple hours every day, then I've seen people get jobs as little as, a couple months. It takes, I mean, even for somebody that's like a proficient programmer, it takes 2 or 3 months to get a job typically. Just the processes are just so long, man, to just study and get back up to date. So I would average and say like 3 months on the low side, 6 months like on the middle side, and probably like over a year on the high side. If you're studying very slow, you're very new, you're getting stuck, you're having periods of drought, it could take you a year or two. You're failing interviews, like everybody goes through it, man. It's not, you wouldn't be alone. Like everybody fails interviews, everybody gets stuck. I think the last time I was interviewing, I didn't change companies, but just to get the offer, it probably took like 3 months. Cause I started interviewing after 1 month though, cause I was just refreshing. So once I refreshed enough, I started interviewing. But before I actually got to the point of getting the offer, it was like 3 months. So the answer is complicated. So just DM me. Like anybody, feel free to DM me on any of my social media channels if you have like specific questions that I missed. Yeah. Matt said, just finished my final project for programming class, full working calendar with UI, save, and loads. That's dope. That's a dope final project. I like that. Got UI, logic behind it. What did you use? Did you use a framework, or just like, I'm guessing it was like JavaScript? Or was it a desktop application, or was it a web application? Cool. Yeah. And let me see. From scratch, just C, no real UI. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's a dope project. I'll make sure to catch the next live. Appreciate it, some person. Appreciate you joining again. I definitely seen you on before. And sorry if I'm missing comments. It's kind of trying to go back. These people probably not even on here anymore. Use cursor. I already answered that, man. Like, hey, yeah, you can use AI, but yeah, you might want to make sure AI is teaching you. Make sure AI is teaching you something. Like if you're not leveraging AI to also improve yourself, I feel like you're not using it right, because you don't want to just turn like your brain into just rot and not be able to critically think anymore. Like AI to me is like a fancy Google. Like what we used to do day to day at work is we would Google our code, copy code from Stack Overflow, copy code from Google, stitch it together, adopt it, make sure it works. To me, AI is just like a fancy version of that instead of you going to Google and Stack Overflow to copy code and stitch it together, the AI just does the work. It's already been trained on stuff from Google, trained on stuff from Stack Overflow, trained on stuff from all over the internet. And it just takes it and just stitches it together for you automatically. But you still want to review it, test it, make sure that it fits the business logic that you have at your company or at what you're trying to do. Make sure there's no bugs. Make sure there's no edge cases. Feed it the right context. Feed it the right information. Plug it into the right third-party APIs if that's the case. Make sure that it's, secure. Make sure that it's accessible if it's like a website. Like there's still so many other things that AI is just not. AI doesn't have initiative. It just, at least right now. I mean, there's some stuff like Devin AI that kind of has some level of initiative, but you still are giving it instruction. I use Devin, and Devin basically says you need to tell me what to do. Like I'm better with stuff that you tell me exactly what to do. And so initiative comes from software engineers. The AI is just good at performing this stuff. And yeah, it can come and it can hint you stuff sometimes, but if you don't tell it to focus on accessibility, then it's not going to focus on accessibility. It might miss something. So, because it might be like, hey, you didn't tell me to, so I didn't think I should. So that's where the expertise comes in at, for example. Appreciate you putting out there for the young men. They need to know we can learn these things. Yeah, appreciate that, man. If you're still on here, Jaquan the Great, appreciate that. Where'd you learn this in college? So yeah, I went to, I got a computer science bachelor's in college. So I went to did the 4-year thing. You don't have to do that to learn the code. You can self-teach. You can go to boot camps these days. Back when I did it, like over 10 years ago, it was more or less like the main route was going through school, get a computer science degree. But you don't have to do that anymore. I will say it's still a great route. The computer science degree is still king in a sense, man. I'm not putting down the other ways, self-teaching or boot camps. But a computer science degree still looks really good on a resume because the hiring managers still are from the old realm. You know what I mean? A lot of the hiring managers are like in their 40s, 50s, and 60s right now. And so they're still from the regime of getting a computer science degree. I want to see that on your resume. I want to see you went to school. And so you still can have, it's not impossible to get a job without it, but there's still some cases where the degree will make you look like a stronger candidate, just to be honest. But don't let that discourage you, because I've worked with people that don't have computer science degrees. I work with people that don't have a degree at all. I work with people that are self-taught. I've worked with them side by side. We had the same job. Some of them made more money than me. Some of them were in higher positions than me. So do not let that discourage you. I'm trying to fight against this narrative that like school is not valuable for programming, which is not the case at all. Like everybody thinks, oh, you just self-teach now, no reason to go to school. Like, nah, it's still pretty valuable. And if some people aren't good at self-teaching. They think they are. They think they're good at self-teaching, but when it comes time to do it, they don't have the discipline to make themselves get on the computer every night and study. Some people need to be in somebody's college, need to be in somebody's university that's forcing them, because they're paying for it, to learn. Some people need to be in somebody's boot camp that's forcing them to do stuff because they're paying for it to learn. And even then, some people still fall off in school and boot camps. Sometimes boot camps and school is not for everyone. So I'm not saying college is for everybody, because sometimes those things are not for everybody. But look at how you learn. Pick the best way that you're not gonna fail, because the best way is always the way that you're going to get through it. So yeah. So Blake. Oh, you saying is Blake? Are you completely self-taught? Code more to get better at JS. Appreciate you. Oh, so y'all talking to each other. Yeah, connect with each other, please do. Definitely connect with me and on any of the channels that you're watching on TikTok. I'm live on YouTube. I'm live on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter or whatever. So I'm live on all this stuff at the same time, so you can switch platforms. Follow me on other platforms. Please DM me if you have questions that I didn't get to as well. DM with each other, connect with each other. Jamal said I miss programming. So what happened, man? What did you stop doing it, or just change jobs? Let's see. I'm rusty in program. Oh, he said I'm rusty in program. My D isn't my my degree. I'm on some weird stuff. My degree is in CS and electronics, but I work in networking. Okay, cool. Okay, got you. So you just miss programming because you're doing networking. But I mean, you're still in tech, so I mean, you still in a good realm to be in. And networking probably is. I mean, everybody say that's safer, because networking, they're building all these data centers and stuff like that. So, that's good. looking to get into cybersecurity. Yeah, that's a good one too. Cybersecurity gonna be big, man, coming up. Like with all this AI stuff and all this AI fraud that's about to be happening, cybersecurity about to be the truth. Cybersecurity about to be the job to have, man. It's already the job to have. It's already a great route in tech. But now, man, all this cyber fraud is about to get crazy. We seen the tip of the iceberg. I saw this thing today, man, where it was like this picture of Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan or whatever Jordan. Michael B. Not the Michael Jordan basketball, but Michael B. Jordan or whatever his name is, the Killmonger dude. And he played in a bunch of other stuff, of course, like Creed and all that stuff. But I saw a picture of them doing the that movie Will Smith got. What's it called? Like The Last Days or what's the movie? He was like the last dude on Earth. I can't remember. Dang, I'm forgetting the name, man. Y'all know the movie. Dang, whatever that movie is Will Smith got when he's like the last dude on Earth. They're making a sequel with Michael B. Jordan and him. And they had this picture, and I'm like, I couldn't tell if it was AI or real. Some people are saying they are filming it because Will Smith said it himself. But they had this picture, and I'm like, I don't know if it's real or fake. And like we've gotten to the point where I really can't. I used to could tell. I really could not tell if somebody just made, using this nano banana thing from Google, which is really good, if they just generated this image or not. So I'm thinking about that. This is just, that's harmless, but like now once people started using fraud and like it's gonna get crazy. So like cybersecurity is gonna be a good route. I'm saying all that to say that cybersecurity is gonna be, pretty AI resistant field to get into. Because it's like you're literally kind of like fighting, you're gonna be like combating the AI in a sense. And you don't want to use AI all the time for everything in cybersecurity because you're essentially helping to train the models with whatever you're doing. So it's something, and then you're dealing with secrets and application secrets that you don't want to add to it. And even if you're using like a private AI, instance or whatever, a model that is promising not to train on your data, you're still hitting third-party services more often than not, which you don't want to share a lot of those secure details with. So, I feel like, it's a good space to be in for sure. Make my blog site for me. I'm trash at web stuff. I'm still I'm not really doing freelance stuff right now, but if you DM me, there's probably solutions. I feel like now, if you're trash at web stuff, but you are like tech savvy, just use AI to kind of work on it, or use a blog builder or something. A lot of developers, like they use, what are these sites? What's the good one? I can't remember the name of it. It's like a blogging site. There's all these like different blogging sites you can use though, like these website builder sites, or you can build your own, use AI to help you, but make sure you're learning. I would suggest. But anyway, I decided to do with GitHub pages. Yeah, okay. So even with that, you can use AI to help you, build it. I feel like you can get something pretty good with AI, or maybe take a shot with one of these AI builder things like Replit or Lovable. Take a shot with that, give them a little bit of money to help you do it. At this point, I feel like that's way cheaper and you'll get more what you want than trying to hire somebody or get some help. Yeah. Oh, Django admin panel to manage blog posts. Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Snaky basket. Oh, so y'all having a whole conversation. I'm not going to try to catch up on that, but I'm glad y'all are doing it. Somebody came back and said, bro, you still at this problem. Yeah, man. I was doing multiple versions of the solution, so that's why it took so long. It wasn't just because I was just struggling. But yeah, I think, it's 1:42. I think I'm going to call it there. Appreciate it, Snaky Basket. Appreciate it, all the people that were commenting. King Donnie, Jamal, some of these recent people that are probably still here, Blake. I appreciate y'all jumping in, man. I appreciate anybody on other channels. YouTube, there's some people on there. There's people on Twitch. Somebody on Twitch watching. I appreciate you. Instagram, I probably missed all the comments on Instagram. My bad if I missed the comments on there. I'll be forgetting about Instagram. But yeah, I appreciate y'all. Please like, follow, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I don't even. This is a live, so I guess you're supposed to subscribe or follow me or whatever. I'll follow back. You know, send me a DM though. Like, let me know who you are, what you got going on. If you have any questions that I didn't get to, just connect with me, man. I'm just trying to, build community. I post content. I post programming content, tech news, tech content on my channels. And I just, try to just share what I love with the tech industry and coding and software development and stuff like that. A lot of AI stuff these days. So I talk about a lot of AI stuff. And yeah, I just like to just talk with people on here. And, I found a great community on these social media platforms, but you would think it's all just social media junk, but it's a lot of people doing, tech stuff on here, and it's on the various platforms. It's a great community. So I just like to help build it up and connect with each other as well. Connect with people you talk to in the chat if you find reason to do so. And hopefully you connect with me and we'll stay connected, and you'll join me in the next live or in the future live where I'll do another coding challenge. I'm probably going to start doing other things other than coding challenges, Q&As, live coding, where I'm working on some of my side projects. I do mostly build mobile apps is mostly what I'm doing these days on my side projects. My day job stuff, I do have a software engineering day job. I don't really share anything from that because I'm pretty much not allowed to. So, but I do have a lot of personal projects I work on that I can share and willing to share. So hopefully you'll see that and like that too. So yeah, but like I said, DM me if you got any more questions that I didn't get to. It's kind of hard to follow everything, especially when I'm coding. And anybody that has been through the whole thing or been in here for a while, I appreciate you. And yeah, I see